What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to Zarc with an even more degenerate combo. So shout out to Kyron who showed me this combo, and shout out to Supernix on YouTube whose combo it was originally. I believe they also credit, and I'm just making sure that the credit chain continues, Dugbag, who introduced Supernix to the combo. So what I've done is I've made my own version of the build, and then at the end of the video I'll show you the combo as well so you can kind of see how degenerate it is. Basically it hand loops your opponent, which is absolutely sickening, but you've got the best of both worlds. You can board wipe your opponent or you can hand loop your opponent. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So we're going to dive headfirst into the profile, starting off with the Supreme King cards, and you're going to be playing 3 of the brand new Supreme King Gate Magician. This is the one that gets it all started. It ticks both versions and everything the deck could possibly need. Not only does it put a Supreme King or like a Fusion Dragon, Synchro Dragon, XYZ Dragon or Odd Eyes Dragon from the extra deck to the graveyard, but it also gives you that ability as a free extender. It gives you the ability to search out the search spell or the trap card as well. Absolutely insane. Then we're playing 3 of the Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. I'm just going to skip ahead so you can see how many different ways we actually have access to this guy. So we've got 3 normally opening it up anyway. You've also got 3 Odd Eyes Revolution Dragons that can search it as well. And then on top of that, the best way you can utilize it is by getting it from the graveyard. And that's where we're going to be using triple Dragon Shrine and 1 Foolish Burial. So you've got 4 routes to access it. And even then, in later game states, just being able to have multiple Dragon Shrines, it means that your opponent could ash you and you're like, okay, cool, Foolish Burial. It also means that you could Foolish Burial and they get ashed and you can Dragon Shrine. So you've got multiple ways of getting the Dark One to the graveyard, because you know as soon as that happens, as long as you control no monsters, that is going to start your turn off. The best thing about Pendulum, or the most important thing, is if you're able to save your normal summon, save a Pendulum summon, or save a special summon, it still gives you ways to have a crackback should your opponent interrupt you at certain stages, which is arguably considered as the weakest points of the deck, and it just allows you to keep playing. Then we're playing 2 of the Supreme King Dragon Lightworm, and then for the gates we are playing 2 Infinity and 2 0. Now you can play 3 and 3, you can play 3 and 1 if you want to. The idea is that in the combo you kind of want to see one of your gates, and then throughout the rest of the combo you will search out the other one. Keep in mind that if you open up enough cards, you've got to remember that Supreme King Gate Magician can also get you to one of the 0 or Infinity, and so does the Dark One, which is why they are both incredibly important. Then for the non-Supreme King cards, we are playing for our main normal summon of the deck, your Performer Power Skullcrobat Joker. Now when I say main normal summon of the deck, obviously if you open up Dragon Darkworm and this, you're going to be going for your Darkworm because that just helps you with your Zarc combos. The idea is that you really, really want your Darkworm to come off of the back of something like your Foolish Burial or off of the back of your Dragon Shrine, because that's going to give you the most advantage. If you can maintain your normal summon for something like Skullcrobat Joker, you're going to be in a much better position. Then for the extenders, we are playing triple Chronograph Sorcerer with, of course, its trusty Time Gazer Magician. Then, of course, we've got the Astrograph Sorcerer, and then we do play a mini Pendulum Magician engine of 2 Harmonizing, 1 Celestial, and the Stargazer. Now, the reason we play the Stargazer is in Super Nick's version, you would have to make Samsara Dragon. Now, to make the Samsara Dragon, that's a level 5 that you then overlay to go into Duradar, which helps you give you the hand loop. Whereas I thought in this version, yes, it might be a little bit trickier because you need to maintain one of your searches to get to Harmonizing Magician. You need to have it in order to get that level 5. Whereas in the other version, you don't have as much flexibility in the extra deck, but you do have more direct access to complete the hand loop combo. I kind of thought, well, technically throughout the combo, you're going to be going into double Iris. And that's going to be searching you out, of course, the ability, double Iris, beyond the Pendulum. That's going to be searching you out your Harmonizing Magician. That's ideally what you want to go for. Not to mention, if you maintain your normal summon, of course, normal summon Skullcrobat Joker gets you there as well. And the idea is that you special summon out Stargazer. It means you can make your rank 5 a little bit earlier without needing to rely on Samsara Dragon. I'll see if I've got Samsara Dragon to one side. I did have it, just so you can visually see what the card is. It's a level 5, there you go, level 5 Dark Dragon. But the idea is that you would use Backbliss in order to kind of make this. The only issue with trying to make it is that the only real tuner you have in the deck is your Harmonizing Magician and your Lightworm. So it means where you would normally search out your Lightworm in the deck to make Samsara Dragon, you actually just go for Harmonizing Magician to get your Stargazer anyway. So you do the exact same kind of rooted play, just in a different way. And then the final little engine we play for the monsters / pendulums is of course the Predaplant engine. So you've got one Buffo, one Triantis and one Baplis. Now, the idea behind this is technically you don't need to use the graveyard effect of Baplis as much, but what it does provide you with, now that you're not using it as a level 1 monster to go into Samsara Dragon, is the ability to link climb higher. So that's where you can access stuff. Rather than playing Samsara Dragon, you have the option of being able to play something like a Appaloosa as well. Buffo and Triantis are absolutely insane. Fusion with the scales, great. Not to mention recycle a Dark from the extra deck as well. Then for the spells, of course, we have triple Wings of Light. Again, this is a direct search out for your Dragon King, but also it can search you out your Supreme King Gate Magician. Now, keep in mind, throughout the combo, you kind of do want Wings of Light to get you to your Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, but if you already open up both of these, or you already open up your Darkworm, then this can then search you out your gate. So you're basically just making sure you've got multiple routes and multiple ways of being able to get into your Supreme King Gate Magician. And then, of course, we've got the one Pendulum Evolution, one Miracle Synchro Fusion, which is what makes this deck even viable, because you get to search this. And I know some people didn't know this, I didn't. Like, there's a second effect of Infinity and Zero. Now, obviously, it's more so Zero that is the most important one. But the idea is, what you get to do with these cards, which is absolutely insane, and it's not a once per turn, is you have the ability to destroy both cards in your Pendulum Zone, and if you do, add a Polymerization spell or Fusion spell card from your deck to the hand. Not hard once per turn, so if you can scale these up again, you're going to see in the combo that we go through Instant Fusion and Miracle Synchro Fusion. Absolutely insane. And then the last card we play is the one Soul of the Supreme Celestial King. You don't have to play this. If you want to, you can fine-tune the deck to either be the trap version, and if you are going to go with the trap version, what I do quite like the idea for is people do play Labyrinth Butler, because you can Labyrinth Butler and activate this to turn it set, which is bonkers because it means turn 0. Or technically, if you're going second, you can Butler, get into your Supreme Soul of the Supreme King, and then that gives you the ability to nuke your opponent's board turn 2, which is mental because you make Zarc during your turn after they've already built a board. So that is a very kind of cool option, and that's definitely something I'll be looking into. But you don't need to play this. You can very easily just cut this out if you want to. The reason I've put it in here is it just still gives you the ability to make Zarc through the trap to board wipe as well as hand rip. It's like if I can't complete the hand rip because maybe I've been drolled, but I've got the setup to board wipe, then you can go down the board right option. It's very niche, very specific, but that's just kind of the way I thought would be a good option to build the deck. It's very easily cuttable. It really comes down to personal preference. And then for the extra deck, I'm still playing the one Odd Eyes Arcry. Now, the people that were questioning this, you can very easily cut it out. The reason you play this is if you need your second Pendulum scale, or you need another scale to finish off the duel. Now, the idea is that you're going to make your Zarc. Zarc just has that built-in protection, that board wipe, absolutely insane. But in this particular version, of course, you're going to be putting Zarc into the Pendulum Zone. You're going to hand rip your opponent. But if you do make it to nuke your opponent's board, if they're able to still build up a board and you need to be able to complete your Pendulum Scales or your Pendulum Zones to finish off the OTK, you turn Zarc into Arcry, and then what Arcry gives you is it gives you the ability to place a Pendulum monster from your deck directly into your Pendulum Scales. So that's all you're already doing. It's literally, do I need the scale? Yes, okay, summon out Arcry. Do I need the scale? No, okay, keep it as Zarc. And then, of course, we've got the Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. So this is your negator, and in the combo that you'll see, this actually negates your own Zarc, which is really, really funny. And then, of course, we've got Duradol, which helps you instigate the hand rip capabilities of the deck. The one Predaplant. And then for your 4 kind of dragons that you're going to utilize for the back of Zarc is 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, 1 Supreme King Dragon Clearwing, 1 Starving Venom Dragon, and 1 Odd Eyes Absolute. Now, the reason that we selected these 4 is you've got to keep in mind that when you actually summon Zarc any other normal way, it just needs a Pendulum, Fusion, Synchro, and an XYZ Dragon. That's all it needs. The only time you need to specifically have a monster that is a Fusion Dragon, Synchro Dragon, Pendulum Dragon, and XYZ Dragon is when you are summoning off the back of the Soul of the Supreme Celestial King to make sure its effects or its activated effects cannot be negated. So, what are we doing in order to make sure the trap still works without clogging down our extra deck? Well, we are playing 1 additional card in the form of the Grand Sulphur Cord Coolia. Now again, you don't have to. This is me going out of my way in order to make sure that the trap is still viable in the deck with the board wipe as well as the hand loops. You're getting the best of both worlds. If you don't play this, you don't play this. But the reason we play this is pendulum monsters this card points to cannot be, their activated effects cannot be negated. So the idea is that once you summon out Zarc, its effects will not be negated, but you need to make sure you have Yugioh first in order to make sure Zarc is still a fat stack towers. For the other Link monsters, of course, we've got the one IP Masquerena, the one SB Little Knight. Again, this is a card that is quite expensive, so you can very easily cut it out and you go back to something like Nightmare Unicorn or a second Beyond the Pendulum. I'm then still also playing the one Exceed the Pendulum and the one Appaloosa. So in the combo again, you'll see that you can technically either go into the Sulphur Chord if you're going down the trap route, or you can go into Exceed the Pendulum. And the reason to do that is, again, you get to recycle from your extra deck back to the hand, which means when you do hand loop or hand rip your opponent and shuffle in a new hand for yourself, you get an additional draw. But it also gives you that ability to special summon that extender from the hand should you need it, and then you could link climb higher into an Appaloosa should you want to. So that's it for the build. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the board state and then I'll show you the combo. And then if you want to see more from this deck as well, I can also show you a test hand just so you can kind of see how consistent the particular type of play is. So we'll be back. So the combo can be quite consistent because you can either hard open up one of the gates, or you can open up your Dragon Shrine Foolish Burial to save your normal summon and Dark One gets you to the other one. And you can also hard open up the Wings of Light. The idea is you just need a combination of 2 of these cards in the right way. So the 2 that I'm going to show you is we'll start off with the Supreme King Gate Magician, and then we'll start off with, let's say, 0. Now keep in mind you'll still have 3 more cards in the hand. That doesn't make any difference apart from the draw at the end of the turn. So what you're going to start off by doing here is you're going to activate the Supreme King Gate Magician's effect to send from the extra deck to the graveyard. And usually what you want to go for is your Starving Venom. It doesn't matter, you can send the Synchro or you can send the Fusion. You'll still be able to get into the other one later on in the turn. In doing so, your Supreme King Gate Magician effect will now trigger, and what you're going to be going for is you're going to be going for the Wings of Light. Like I said, if you've already opened up this, or you've already opened up your Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, or a way to get to it, then you can actually just search out the trap card as well, so you've got a follow-up should your opponent try and stop you getting this play. So we're going to activate the Wings of Light. Pretty much the standard of this one is to search out your Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, and you're going to normal summon it, searching you out the other scale. So now you've got your complete scales of 0 and infinity. So you're going to scale your 0, you're going to scale the infinity, you're going to use the effect of 0 to destroy both in order to search out a fusion spell. So we're going to be going directly for instant fusion. You're going to activate the instant fusion and you're going to special summon out your Predaplant level 5. In doing so, your Predaplant level 5 is going to trigger, and it allows you to add a Predaplant monster or a Predap spell or trap. So the monster you're going to want to go for is one of your scales. Doesn't matter which one you go for, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to go for the Buffo because, again, just in case my opponent stops me, I still have plays to make. Now that's not the end of it, you still have a lot of plays to make, so you can very easily activate the Predaplant effect to tribute off. Now keep it on the board, you need to keep this on the board, this is the level 5 you need for your XYZ material, but you can tribute off any of the other 2. It doesn't matter which one you tribute because you're still going to be able to get into your Beyond the Pendulum and everything else. So in doing so, you're then going to special summon out your, wherever it may be, Predaplant Baplis. Then what you're going to do here is you're going to link these 2 together, your Supreme King Dragon Darkworm and a Baplis, just because it's one Pendulum monster and then one any other, and this will then go into Beyond the Pendulum. Baplis, of course, will go to the graveyard, and you can go Chaining 1 Baplis, Chaining 2 Beyond the Pendulum, and this is, again, where it differs. So off of the Baplis, you want to search out your other scale, which is Triantis, and then off of the back of the Beyond the Pendulum, you have an option to either go for Harmonizing Magician, which is what I'm going to do, because that's the way that I get my other level 5 on the board. If you're playing Samsara Dragon, at this point, you would actually search out your Supreme King Dragon Lightworm instead. So you just tidy up the extra deck for now. And then what you're going to do is you're going to want to scale your Buffo, you're going to want to scale your Triantis, and you're going to Pendulum Summon, because keep in mind, if you don't Pendulum Summon now, they're all going to be negated because of Beyond the Pendulum. So you're going to summon out Harmonizing Magician, and then you want to get out your Supreme King Gate 0 is the most important one, and then I go for another level 7 in the form of the Supreme King Gate Magician, keeping in mind that your 2 level 7s, which we'll eventually get, will lead you into your Odd Eyes as well. At this point, of course, you're going to resolve your Harmonizing. Harmonizing is then going to get you out your level 5 Stargazer Magician. Now, obviously, this completes your level 5, so you can overlay these just to kind of get them out of the way, and you've cleared up a bit more space, which you will need eventually. And this is going to allow you to overlay into a Duradol. Now, do not hand rip your opponent now, because you're just going to give them a brand new fresh hand. You definitely want to be saving it. Then what you want to be able to do here is you've got the ability of activating the Predaplant Buffo to fusion itself plus the Triantis to go into Starving Venom Dragon. Now this requires a Dark Monster and a Pendulum Monster, and the reason you're going to do this is it is a level 7 and it is a Pendulum Monster you can get in the graveyard that can then be banished as a dragon in order to make your Zarc. In doing so, you've got a couple of effects to go off. So you've got the effect of the Buffo and you've got the effect of the Triantis. The Buffo is going to add the Infinity back to the hand, and the Triantis is going to put a Predap counter on the board. Now the one you want to be putting it onto is the Harmonizing Magician, because this is the one that's going to stay around the longest. In doing so, what you now want to do here is you want to overlay your Supreme King Gate Magician, and you're going to go into your Odd Eyes Vortex. You've also now got the ability of Supreme King Gate 0, that once per turn you target one other face-up card you control, destroy both it and this card. If you do, you get to special summon a Dragon-type Fusion or Synchro Monster from your extra deck, but its attack and defense becomes 0, and its effects are negated. So the idea is you're going to tribute off your Beyond the Pendulum and the Supreme King Gate 0. In doing so, you're going to summon out your Synchro Dragon, which you need, which is your Synchro Clearwing. You've then also got to remember that you do have additional abilities of Beyond the Pendulum should you go second. If two monsters with different original levels are Pendulum summoned at the same time to the zone this points to, you get to target 2 cards in the field and destroy them. Obviously in the example we did, both were level 7, so that is not going to happen, but just keep that in mind. Now what you want to do here is, because the Supreme King Gate 0 was destroyed, it actually puts itself into the scale, which is really nice because you're going to want to use that with Infinity to give you your Miracleized Synchro Fusion. Now, because you have a monster with a Predap counter on it, you've got to remember Batlist Graveyard effect, that if a monster with a Predap counter on the field, you can special summon this card from the graveyard but banish it when it leaves the field. So again, you're just going there for an additional extender. Now, you don't have to go anywhere too far to keep going further forward. The idea is that you can either go straight for a Link 4 here, which will go straight into a 4 negate Appaloosa, or you can go through an additional Link 3 of Exceed the Pendulum. You can also go for something like Exceed the Pendulum and try and set up something like an SP Little Knight as well, rather than going into an Appaloosa or an IP Masquerena. It really depends on your particular playstyle and option. The idea behind this is keeping in mind that Harmonizing cannot be used for an XYZ, Synchro or Fusion unless the other material is Magician, so your only option is to link it off. So we're going to go Link 1, Link 2, Link 3 and Link 4. Harmonizing goes to the extra deck. And we're just going to go directly to an Appaloosa. Now again, remembering if you go down the trap route, you want to make sure you go for the Sulphur Cord Coolier instead. Entirely up to you. You could have, like I said, gone a little bit further and gone for a 2 negate Appaloosa off of the back of an Exceed the Pendulum, and you could have set up an SP Little Knight. It really is up to you on where you want to take it. What you are going to resolve though is the Odd Eyes Vortex in the the Odd Eyes Dragon in the graveyard to summon out a Vortex. So you've now got a negate on the board with a 4 negate Appaloosa. Now what you want to do is you want to use your Supreme King 0 again to destroy both of your scales and search you out a fusion spell, which will be your Miracle Synchro Fusion. You're then going to activate your Miracle Synchro Fusion. You're going to banish a Synchro Dragon, an XYZ Dragon, a Pendulum Dragon, and of course a Fusion Dragon from your graveyard, and you're going to summon out your almighty Zarc. In doing so, Zarc has a mandatory trigger effect to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. It is mandatory to do so, which is why your Vortex can now trigger to negate the Supreme King Zarc. In doing so, you destroy the Supreme King Zarc and it will put itself into the Pendulum scale, which is very, very nice. Now, keeping in mind, you've still got those 3 remaining cards in your hand, and you still had the ability through other different means, depending on what you've used, how you've used them, in order to add cards back to your hand when you're using certain effects. Just in this example, what we're going to do here is we're now going to use the effect of Yugioh to detach a material, and that's going to make us shift and draw a new hand, while also drawing your opponent a new hand. In doing so, you can now trigger Zarc's scale effect, that it gives you the ability once per turn when your opponent adds a card or cards from their deck to the hand except during the draw phase or the damage step, you can destroy that card or cards. So that will now rip the entire 5 new cards from your opponent's hand. Now, of course, if your opponent does have some form of interaction, you no longer have a, you've got a monster negate, but you don't have a spell and trap negate because you've used Vortex this turn. So keep that in mind. But there's not really anything your opponent can do bar going imperm, negate the Appaloosa, and then trying to drop a nib. Like, that's the best thing they can do. Other than that, they've lost their entire hand. They're now going to be passing, you're going to try and pass back to your opponent. And when you're passing back to your opponent, you've got an Omni Negate off the back of the Vortex, and you've got Appaloosa with 4 Monster Negates on board. So worst case scenario, your opponent opens up what? Dark Ruler no more, evenly matched. That's going to get stopped. You then play it back to your turn. You draw 1 card for turn. You shift your Vortex to attack. Let's say we did use, let's say we use Vortex just because it would have recycled a bit more material. All you then needed in these 4 new cards, not to mention any cards you recycled back to your hand to complete the scale, is the way to complete the scale. And you've got 3 zones unlocked, which will then complete the OTK. Usually, more times than not, your opponent will probably scoop once you've hand ripped them or hand destroyed them in this scenario, but it's absolutely insane. Now this, in my opinion, is not the best way to play Zarc. I quite like playing the trap version. I do also I say trap version, the one that focuses on the trap a little bit more. And I do quite like the idea of trying to get Butler into the deck, which is very easy because it special summons itself for free and it can be pendulum summoned. And in doing so, the Labyrinth Butler, just so there's clarity on what I'm talking about, then gives you the ability to activate the trap card the turn it's set, and that just gives you the ability to Zarc nuke. So it gives you a better balance for going first and second, in my opinion. But I did feel that this version was quite interesting. It's something a little bit different, and I thought the combo was degenerate and absolutely insane. So I thought I'd show it to you, whether you are going to be facing against this deck or whether you think that you're going to build it that particular way. Shame on you, but it is quite fun. And I really do like that Zarc is now highly playable. I'd probably say it's one of the higher playable Pendulum versions. Of course, you do have Yugioh, thanks Jeff, but it's still incredibly fun and very, very powerful. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.